right, we're going to call the regular hybrid meeting, Town of Granby Inland Wetlands Commission, Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Commission for Wednesday, March 13, 2024, to order. We're going to start with our agenda. We've got minutes from the February 14, 2024 meeting, last meeting that we've got to approve tonight.
I move we approve them.
We had a
Is there a second?
Second.
Vicki, questions, comments, discussion?
Yeah, I just had a very minor comment. On page 4, the third paragraph down, in the first sentence, that word where it says unstable one, should be unstable once.
Yes.
Okay, any other comments or revisions? All right, with no further discussion and with the proposed revision, we're not going to have another motion to do it as amended, but all in favor of approving the minutes with that modification or revision suggested by Fred?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Dave? Dave totally abstended. All right, thank you. Just goes to show that Fred reads the minutes very clearly.
Yes, he does. You can always count on Fred.
Good eye.
Yes.
All right, so we're returning to the agenda. Item number 3A, 37 Hartford Avenue, Vessel Real Estate Holdings LLC and Vessel Technologies, permit application for regulated activities in connection with the development of a 42-unit apartment building and associated improvements. This is a continuation of the February 14, 2024 public hearing. So I'll start by inviting anyone from the applicant to address the commission.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Commission members, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Attorney Tim Hollister, representing the applicant. We had requested that tonight's hearing be continued to April because we're still working on the plan, we're still working on the septic system, and we're still working on responses to questions that came up last month. In the request, we granted an extension already to your April meeting, but the response came back from staff that they were going to proceed tonight. So I am the only representative of the team who is here. I'm here to listen. I don't have anything to present tonight, but we will, assuming that we continue in April, we will have completion well in advance of your next meeting, so everyone will have a chance to review the responses.
All right, so why don't we proceed with the public hearing if that was the indication you got from staff, and the commission can take up the request to continue the public hearing. Mr. Hollister's indicated that he consents to that, so we have the authority to do that. And for the record, Mr. Hollister, in public, once again, I'm recusing myself from deliberation on this case, but I will chair the meeting.
Understood. Thank
Can I
you.
ask Attorney Hollister if you've gotten any of the approvals from Valley or from the state?
My understanding, again, I'm not the engineer, is that I believe it was the Department of Public Health had asked for another revision of the plan, and that is still being worked on. So that's part of the reason we asked to continue.
Thank you.
Can you share what that revision is?
I'm sorry?
Can you share what that revision is?
That is way beyond my pay grade, and I do not know.
Okay.
Could he repeat what he said in the beginning?
Can he repeat what he said in the beginning?
When Vicki asked the question. The acoustics in here allows it.
Okay.
So it's bad.
Is the speakers on, or do you guys have speakers?
Yeah,
We have one, but
Speakers or microphones?
we have microphones.
There's no PA. No PA.
Wow.
That's why. That's a recording mic, sir.
Right.
You can probably tell by my gray hair that I have no technical abilities, so, I don't know how to turn the mics on.
No, they're not they're- mics.
There's
They're
no
on.
audit, there's no amplification in the room. The microphones are just for recording purposes.
Okay, so we're all going to have to talk loud tonight so the public can hear our comments. Is there anything that I said that the public did not
No,
hear?
you're fine. No, Vicki asked a question, and I did not hear.
All right, Vicki, I'll have Vicki repose the question, and Mr. Hollister, maybe you can answer it.
I just asked if they had received any of the approvals from the Connecticut Department of Public Health or Farmington Valley Health District with regards to the septic.
Right.
Yes, and my response was that the Department of Public Health had asked for a further revision of the septic system plan, and my understanding is that that is being worked on. That's the sum of what I know.
So the answer is no.
Right.
Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Hollister, and thank you for asking for that clarification. So we have staff here, and we have Mr. Danzer here. I think the purpose was that, and you can go in any order you want, but I believe there was going to be some commentary on some of the statements made in the public hearing and the opinions rendered by the professionals for the applicant. And then I think Abby wanted to weigh in on some of the issues surrounding the sewer system and the ability to tie into that. Do I have that right? So who wants to go first for the town?
Because I have no mic to speak into, but I'll pretend it is a microphone. Yeah,
Could you turn so we can see your mouth or something?
well, I have to address them. I'll try my best. I'm getting over a cold. It's not COVID, it's just a cold.
I'd also encourage people to move up a little bit. It may help. There's some people way in the back.
I will try to project as much as I can.
Thank you.
And I might be short, so it might not be an issue. For the record, my name is Stephen Danzer. I'm the principal of Stephen Danzer Associates LLC. My office is in Stamford, Connecticut. Get my credentials correct. I'm a professional wetland scientist. I'm a soil scientist. I'm a Connecticut licensed arborist. I've had a background in environmental review for quite many years. I've been in business since about 2000. I've worked on the municipal side. I've worked on the private side. I have a pretty much normally eclectic practice, a lot of experience in different areas. I don't have a formal presentation because I just didn't think it was warranted. I was at last meeting, remotely. I was a little bit frustrated because I couldn't really respond. But that said, a lot of those burning issues I addressed in comments that were submitted on March 5th, 2024. I'm not going to go through those comments, but I'd like to do two things. One thing is just to be around for any general questions that you might have, because I've been kind of involved in back and forth a lot with the applicants since October, and this is just my first opportunity to actually be before the commission. And maybe you don't have any questions, but if you do, I'm here. And then the second thing I want to do is just quickly give some context to these March 5th comments. So before I do that, and maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse or whatever, if you have any general questions that you've had about my reports or anything, I'm here. If you don't, that's fine too.
Are you familiar with the federal Wild and Scenic program?
Not specifically. Yeah, let me, unfortunately, let me digress a little bit. When I was approached by the town to deliver an independent assessment of this application, it was focused on one issue, and that was the issue of nitrogen, because I came up with a concern. I did not review the rest of the application, and I did not deliver an opinion or even really look into other aspects of the application for good and for bad. I was basically focused, and still am focused, on the nitrogen question, which again kind of limits my involvement a lot more, but it's also kind of one of the burning questions, obviously, of this application. So in the context of the scenic rivers, I didn't really get into that except for just to get a general idea of the quality of the resource and the wetland resources on-site and how it relates to off-site resources.
Yeah.
Any questions, more questions for Mr. Danvers before he gives us a little summary of his March 5th, 2024 comments, which are in the record now. Why don't you just give us a little
All right,
overview?
that's fine.
I don't know how much of the public has had the opportunity to read some of your comments, so it
Okay.
may be helpful.
All right. To give you the greater context, this is an exchange that I've been having on behalf of the town, in dialogue with the applicant regarding, again, the issue of nitrogen. And this actually dates back to October. And there's been, I believe, 3 sets of comments on my side and at least 3 on their side. But usually when they respond to me, it's in multiple consultants, so there's been a lot more, but a lot of this is just kind of an ongoing dialogue. And there were a couple of specific statements that they had made at the last meeting, which I either agree with, disagree with, or just thought that there should be some added context. So in reviewing what they had submitted after that, or during that meeting, which was a summary of what they presented at the meeting, it gave me an opportunity to actually look into better detail of what their arguments are. And there's some points that I agree with, and there's some points that I disagree with. But I guess the bulk of it is that these comments were more to set the record straight. I don't know how you're going to vote on this. I'm not going to tell you how to vote on this. But I just felt it was important that, I corrected or addressed a couple of the details, and they might not even be the details most significant to your decision making, but I don't know that. So, for example, we were having this discussion about nitrogen and whether it is a pollutant or not a pollutant. I strongly believe, based on my training and basically based on my training, that nitrogen is a pollutant regardless. They, in my view, are dancing around semantics about, well, has to have an adverse impact, which is true in your context and how you're going to evaluate the impact to the wetland, but let's just get the record straight. There's non-point source pollution, there's stormwater regulations, there's a lot of things that's already been litigated and discussed and scientifically proven that, like, non-point source pollution is bad, even small amounts of it, that everyone should do everything they can to minimize that, regardless of impact. It's kind of our duties as site plan designers to do everything we can to minimize that, because it's assumed that non-point source pollution, of which nitrogen from septic systems is part of that, is something that probably should not be purposely introduced into the wetland. Now, the applicant has responded with saying that's great and everything, but the amount of nitrogen going to this wetland is de minimis. And it might be. But again, I just want to set the record straight, because it just isn't proper professional practice to go off on that tangent and make that argument that nitrogen is not a pollutant. So that was my first point. The second point, which is actually a little bit more significant, was we were discussing the different soil classifications. Initially, the applicant was labeling the soil as a sack of soil, which doesn't have a deep organic horizon, and then under questions and going back and forth, Mr. Logan opined that it actually was a deeper organic soil. I have no reason to doubt Mr. Logan's ability to classify the soil, so I will, if he thinks that that was a deeper organic soil, I forget which he actually classified it as, well, it doesn't matter, but either way, a deeper, thicker organic soil, I concur with Mr. Logan, is going to have the ability to better attenuate the nitrogen that does get introduced. So they are correct on that. Initially, they did not explain that a deeper organic soil was there. Later on, they came around and said that there is. That said, the edge of that wetland is not a deep organic soil. It's what they claimed as a Sacco soil. I don't believe the edge of the wetland really has that same ability as the inner part. So it's more of a complex picture. On top of that, and maybe this is just a little bit detail, but the soil that Mr. Logan described on the outside was actually not a Sacco soil, in my opinion. I'm not sure what it was, but just he was talking, to get into the weeds a little bit, to talk about the origin of the material in the soil that did not fit the normal classification of the Sacco soil. So, for what that is. I guess the whole point is that they haven't been totally, I think they've been evolving in their description of the soil. Where they are now, I don't disagree with them, but I just wanted to note that things have been changing on that front. Then there was a comment about Phragmites and Japanese barberry. These species are not present in the wetland. Barberry does not favor the saturated hydraulic regime. That is false. I delineate wetlands for a living. At least 50% of my work time is involved delineating wetlands. I've seen many wetlands with Japanese barberry in it. Maybe it's not supposed to be in it, but it's all over. The point is that they were trying to make the point that the conditions were not suitable for the colonization of invasive species. And I was earlier making the point that when you introduce nitrogen into the wetlands, you make it more susceptible to the colonization of invasive species, which, by the way, would be an impact if that colonization was severe enough to alter the composition of the plant life that's in it. So that was all that was. The second to last point was we got into the weeds a little bit about talking about the scientific processes of denitrification, and they finally came around and kind of half-hearted admitted that there's not very much denitrification that happens in the winter. The reason why that's significant is because when this conversation started 3 reports ago, they were not making that argument at all. They were claiming that there was plenty of denitrification that was happening in the wetland all season, and at one point they gave scientific studies, or twice they gave scientific studies. Both times I went into it and gave my opinion about that. So they're finally coming around to admitting that. That said, what is the implications of that? Well, the point is that in the winter, there's not a lot of denitrification happening in a wetland, so any nitrogen that gets introduced to that wetland is not necessarily going to denitrify by microbiological processes. On the other hand, and this is kind of important, because it's winter, there's not a lot of opportunity for the ecological parts of the wetland to receive the nitrogen and be impacted because the plants are dormant, the fish are downstream. That's more of an issue during the growing season when everything else is active. So that I do agree with that. Second to last point. They're talking about that the swamp is not sensitive to adverse changes in nitrogen because, to quote them, it's a mesotrophic swamp forest, which is a particular wetland type that is not sensitive to nitrogen. My point about that, and this is where I put my arborist hat on for a minute, is that from their point of view, from a wetland science perspective, what they're trying to argue, based on the literature with some truth in that, is that the swamp forest, if you do dump nitrogen, and they're not saying that nitrogen is being dumped in there, they're saying in the event that it does, it's not going to necessarily impact the swamps because swamps aren't that sensitive. My reply is that swamp is a swamp because swamps are a type of wetland that are forested. They have trees. There is a huge amount of training and literature that's dedicated to educating professional arborists and as well as members of the public about the dangers of over-fertilizing trees. Maybe the wetland scientists are not aware of that because they're not arborists, but as an arborist, I'm aware of that. So where I'm going on that is that if a certain amount of nitrogen ends up into the wetland and there's trees, and the trees are not accustomed to that level of nitrogen, there's a danger of over-fertilization, and which results in a whole host of impacts, which I won't go into because they're actually in my report. But what the result of that is that currently the trees are offering a variety of functions, including habitat, shading, and biodiversity, and those functions are sensitive to the impact of nitrogen because if the trees become over-fertilized and they degrade and die and decay, then there's less opportunity for the habitat to be there, for shading to happen, and obviously biodiversity. And those functions are, as I say, are integral to the performance and quality of the wetland. So I just want to kind of balance their view that everything's okay if you happen to put nitrogen into the wetland because everything that they have been trained upon as far as red maple swamp or swamps in general is that they're not sensitive. I disagree with that. I think, again, this is where I bring to the table a qualification that's a little bit different than the perspective that they might have. And finally, and I'm not to get into this because this is really kind of in more from your policy, but I did notice in the regulations, well, actually, let me back up. The applicant made a comment that the wetland in question is not relatively pristine. I did use that label and earlier on in one of my reports. They kind of brought attention to a variety of encroachments along its boundaries along multiple properties, which is, I have no reason to doubt that. But my reply to that is that even if there is development encroaching on the wetland from multiple sides, it seems to me more reason to protect what wetland resources are left, rather than minimize the wetland significance or the wetlands quality, which is kind of where they were going in their argument. And I further point out in the Granby regulations, which follow the state wetland statute, in section 10D, that as a consideration for decision, any mitigation measures which may be considered as a condition for issuing a permit for such activities, including but not limited to measures to prevent or minimize pollution. So in other words, you have the ability, if you do issue a permit, that you can introduce as a permit condition any activity that might, any measure that might prevent or minimize pollution. And to me, if this is even an option, I'll leave it up to you and the town to figure this out. To me, the easy way to prevent and minimize pollution is to hook the development up to the town sewer system. So what I'm saying is that my view, reading the regulations, that you have the ability to put that as a permit condition if you're disposed towards approving this, if that's even a possibility. And that's, again, that's something that you obviously need to discuss with people who are more versed in the feasibility of that. But I just want to end with that. Anyway, that's my thing. Probably said a lot. I probably put you to sleep. I don't know. But I think most people heard me. If you had any questions, I'm still standing.
If I understand the interior of the marsh, if you will, is better able to attenuate the pollution.
Yes.
Okay. And what you're saying is you're not sure that that's what's happening around periphery.
Yes.
Now, the stream runs through there, and it is before the marshy area.
Yeah, I don't, well, it all depends what we call the interior, but I think what they were saying with the soils around the stream are the deeper organic soils, and that's my limited time out on that site, standing in places that probably weren't private property that I've learned in retrospect. I remember sinking nearer to the stream than farther out, so I would kind of agree that the organic soils are kind of next to the stream, where that stream is. Because that stream is like 20 feet or more into the interior, if I remember.
Yeah. Well, my problem is it seems like the marshy area is better able to take care of the pollution.
Yeah.
But the stream is in the way, and if you're throwing nitrogen in there,
Yeah.
it's going to go into the stream first.
Well, it's going to hit
down.
part of the marsh. It's not really a marsh, but there's the deeper organic soils and the less deeper, right? When the nitrogen in the water makes its way down, first it's going to hit the periphery in the first couple of feet of the wetland. That's where the soils are not deeply organic. So there's
Right.
limited ability up there. But then there still is another, I don't want to say how many feet because I'm not sure, but there is ability for that water to hit the organic soils before it gets to the stream. You're correct that after the stream there's still like a huge amount of wetland, yes, but there's still a formidable amount of wetland before that stream. Not to say that there won't be nitrogen going into that stream, because there might be. But that's the part where I do agree with the applicant that there is a diversity of soils. It's just where I disagree with them is that they're saying on the periphery that those soils are capable. And I couldn't find anything in the record or anything in the literature that really said that that type of particular soil type, well, basically that, it's known that that particular soil type, because it has a less deeper organic profile, is going to be less capable of attenuating than the deeper organic part.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, sounds like we're liable to get more nitrogen into the stream, to be carried on down. than if there were a lot of really good organic material before.
Well, I mean, the larger the flow path, the more possibility for attenuation. That's how I would say it. Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that nitrogen is necessarily going to get into the stream. I'm sympathetic to the applicant's argument, but I just want that it's all straight for the record what it is, because it seems to me like they're minimizing it. I'm just kind of giving, in my view, what I think is a more realistic explanation of it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Will you be waiting around, because we're going to open this up to questions from the public, so maybe they'll have some questions. I want to get the professionals, the town professionals, on the record.
You have me until about 9 o'clock.
We'll do our best.
Yes.
Just, excuse me, one other question. Will Dr. Danzer be at the next hearing?
No.
I have to look at my schedule.
We still have to address
Yeah.
the request for a continuance.
Yeah, and also it's not very likely I'll be here in person. I might be here hybrid if I'm available.
Okay.
Cameron, do you want to comment on those comments at this point, or you want to defer?
Yeah, I'll comment just quickly. So I'm, maybe for the benefit of the public, wanted to just clarify the exchange between Fred and Dr. Danzer, that in my understanding of your testimony there, that the deep organic soils are, relatively deep up to the stream, and that there is the possibility of nitrogen attenuation in those soils before reaching the stream, and there's no guarantee, either for or against the nitrogen reaching the stream, but rather that there's no deep organic layer at the edges, at the periphery of the wetland, and that can then impact the wetland as a whole if the nitrogen is in excess entering the wetland system itself. Is that sort of
I
the
agree
point?
with 80% of what you said,
Okay.
but the less I'm just going to clarify because I don't disagree. The issue of the periphery. I don't know what the magical number is, like how thick the periphery, but when I say periphery, that's part of the wetland.
Right.
So yes, so anything that happens there is going to have less of an ability to attenuate. Now, is that going to affect the rest of the wetlands? Not necessarily, but it may affect that part of the wetland. So where I just want to be a little bit nuanced is, I think you used the word whole, the wetland as a whole. It's not the wetland as a whole. I'm breaking the wetland up into little parts. See, that part of the wetland versus the other part of the wetland.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for the clarification. And then my only other point was regarding the invasive species. I looked up just to double check that Japanese barberry, according to the Native Plant Trust, Go Botany, is a facultative upland species. And so could you just speak to a little bit as to invasive species in general and what facultative upland might imply as to whether a species may be present in a wetland or not?
Sure. Those are categories that were kind of adopted from, let's say, Army Corps of Engineers, U.S. Fish and Wildlife, for a different method of delineating wetlands that we do not use, because in Connecticut we
Right.
delineate wetlands because soils. In the Army Corps federal world, you use vegetation. According to those things, some smart people or some diligent researchers basically sampled a whole lot of vegetation and categorized, do they grow in the wetland, do they grow in the upland, do they grow... I forget the different ones on the wetland and upland, but the point is that for something to be called facultative, I don't remember what the threshold is, but in layperson's terms, it means more often than not it grows in the upland. That's the key, more often than not. So I'm not sure if that's 50% or 60% or whatever, but that means that plant that in question, if it's facultative, can be found in the wetland. It's just not enough for it to be a reliable indicator of a wetland. Doesn't mean that the plant can't be in the wetland. My view in all this, it doesn't matter. What I do is based on personal experience, and like I said, I spend about 50% of my practice and income going through swamps, marking out wetlands. I've seen barberry in wetlands all the time on a daily basis. Maybe it's more because of the areas that I practice. Maybe that's not in Granby, because I admit most of my work is a little bit farther out. But I can personally attest that many times I've seen barberry in wetlands. Now, not in a deep wetland, not in standing water necessarily, but their comment was saturated soils, which are soils where there's not necessarily water table at the surface, but it's a few inches underneath.
Thank you. That was all that I had.
Thanks. Any more questions from the commission? All right. Abby, did you want to address some of the issues regarding the comments made at the last hearing about, there were a lot of questions about sewers at the last public hearing.
Hi, Abby Kenyon, Director of Community Development. So yes, I understand at the last public hearing, there were a lot of questions and some confusions about public sewer. So I did prepare a memo and then a clarifying memo in response to something that was received from the applicant. Just wanted to take a moment to kind of hit some main points about that and then answer any questions that you all may have. So first, public sewer is not available in front of 37 Hartford Avenue. The nearest public sewer is at the intersection of Bank Street and Hartford Avenue. And I did provide hopefully what is a clearer as-built along with my memo showing the location of that. There is a 2-inch private line that serves the Rushford Mead development in close proximity. However, it's my understanding that additional tie-ins to that line wouldn't be allowed because it is private. So if a connection is wanted or needed for any property outside of what it immediately butts a public sewer, a plan would need to be submitted to our WPCA for review and approval. It would be staff's recommendation that any public main be extended and brought up to the property as opposed to like a similar private line, which has been allowed in some past cases. And just one point I wanted to clarify too, this property is within the sewer service area. I did provide a map of the sewer service area in Granby. And that sewer service area was established back in 2002, I believe it was, with DEEP and OPM as part of the wastewater plant upgrade in Simsbury. We had to get approval for that. So provided that there's no extension beyond that sewer service area, to my knowledge, OPM or DEEP wouldn't need to review any revisions because there would be none to that. So happy to answer any questions or clarify anything.
Just to clarify, the Pollution Control Authority is the Board of Selectmen.
Correct, yep, so the Board of Selectmen serves as the Water Pollution Control Authority, but they wear a different hat in their capacity as the WPCA.
So they're inside the sewer system area, but currently there's no sewer system connected up to that piece of
Correct,
property. Okay.
yep. Yeah, so you'll see on the map that sewer service area is actually quite large, but only, a portion of that actually has sewer.
I see, right, okay. So like if it was like a circle, it's just like, this is the outline. Anything on the, on the outside of the line, which would be, it's not like a perfect shape.
Right.
So it's a little confusing, but anything on the outside, you can't service that at all.
Correct.
Okay, very good.
That was my question.
Any more questions? Thanks, Abby.
Thank you.
We're sticking around as well. 9 o'clock, is the deadline?
Please stay later.
You have little ones, so. All right. So we'd like to hear any questions from the public, any comments. We had, extensive public comment at the last public hearing, at the first session of this public hearing. So if anyone would like to speak to what they've heard tonight, we'd request that you confine your comments to what's been presented tonight as opposed to reiterating comments that were made at the last meeting. As you can see by Fred's diligent review of the minutes, we do have a record of what was said at the last hearing, and those comments will be taken into account when the commission deliberates. So I see someone raising their hand. Come on up and identify yourself At the podium, please.
Okay, let me put my glasses on. Tony Flanagan, Woodcliff Drive. Hearing about the septic tanks and the sewers, a force main pump can be put in. Okay, number one. Number two, it's not true that they don't have any plans of extending the sewer system up to the East Granby town line. In the Affordable Housing Plan that was drafted in 2021, it states that they are going to put the sewers up to the East Granby line. These septic tanks, and I've said it before, they will fail, either from overuse or whatever they put down them. When I was told that, oh no, there's never any more than one or two people. As for the building, it's been moved back from the street, which means the parking lot's been moved back, which means the septic tanks have been moved back. So now you're right on the line of the wetlands. I was listening to when Bessel said they were going to put a wall up from where the parking lot was. Well, you can't do that either, because now what you're doing is you're restricting the groundwater. The groundwater is naturally flowing into the wetlands, which keeps it alive. Any disruption of that will degrade it. You put a wall, that water's going to keep on building up, building up, and building up, and it's going to push that wall out. Then you're going to have a big problem. The septic tanks themselves is unheard of for that amount of people in such a small property. When they said that they were waiting, I believe it was the February 14th meeting, they stated they were waiting for approval on their revised plans from the Farmington Valley and the state. Am I correct on that, Fred?
Yes.
Thank you. As of this morning, according to Jennifer and the Department of Health, the State Department of Health, no revised plans have been submitted from Vessel at all. They have nothing. So for them to sit there and say that, oh, we're waiting to hear approval from these two entities, where how can you have approval when there's nothing to approve? On top of that, what I did not like was the fact that, none have been submitted. What I didn't like was that, we're going to start the round robin tonight probably, how can we take their word that they will maintain all these systems, keep them running? Who's going to be monitoring the soil? Are they going to test it every year? Probably not. On top of that, what I don't like is they were dishonest to you, to us, in the town, by saying, oh yeah, we've got plans in, we're waiting for the approval. Misrepresenting yourself and being dishonest like that, to me, is their permit should be revoked from here on out. You're either upfront and honest and transparent, or you're not. And in this case, they're not. And that right there, you lose merit and you lose trust from everybody. And right there, I feel they should not be allowed to have a permit. Because if they're going to tell us, oh yeah, we've got that permit, that's like saying the check's in the mail. That septic is a ticking time bomb. People aren't going to follow directions. Nobody follows directions when they have a big stop sign on the side of a school bus that says stop. They had to have a hearing on that to tell people to stop. So this is a bigger problem. The townspeople are going to be held holding the bag, or we're going to be the ones that are going to have to pay for a whole sewer system. That's not fair and that's not right. Why should we put our wetlands in jeopardy of anything that happening? And you can't tell me nitrogen stays the same all year long. I'm sure it fluctuates and changes, but the minute you start disrupting that whole area, you disrupt everything that goes into it. And that's not what we want with federally protected wetlands. That goes into the stream, which goes into that Farmington River. And we don't want that problem, and we don't want to have to pay for it. As far as people saying, oh, we can't do this, we can't do that, there's never we can't. There's always we can try and see what happens. But for some reason, they don't want to try to see what will happen. All they have to do is put in, another thing too was, they have to also put in a permit with DEP. Apparently, down in Farmington Valley, they think the septic tanks are too big for them to do. Therefore, it's got to go through the state DEP. Nothing's been done with them either. We have been checking these agencies consistently. We've been doing our homework. We've been looking up things. We even see where people in the past who have rented from them have said, we've gone without heat for a week. It's impossible to get maintenance. And when we do, it's sloppy. These are all people on Facebook. And it takes 2 seconds to do your homework on this, to find all this stuff. It took us an hour to get all this. And there's a lot more. Their parking lot has to have EV chargers, because Connecticut General Statute states if you have 30 or more parking spaces, you have to have them. And that is under Connecticut General Statute 4B/77. That was passed for this year. So any new building made after January 1st of last year, has to have EV charging spaces. That cuts down the rest of the spaces. And it has to be a level 2. If it's a level 2, if your car is dead, okay, with the battery, it'll take up to 10 hours to charge that one vehicle.
I don't want to cut you off, but these are more zoning issues.
I'm sorry?
These are more zoning issues for the zoning.
All right, I understand that, but what I don't like is the fact that everything is too close. You're going to have charging units too close. You're going to have all these things too close. Where's the trash receptacle going to go? In the back, in the wetlands? Where are you going to put all these things? I mean, it's too close. You're going to have garbage. You're going to have all that, and our wetlands are going to degrade quickly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? And just a reminder, we did ask people to confine to 5 minutes. You were under 5 minutes, but just for the rest of the public. Yes, sir.
I will keep it under 5 minutes. I should be able to. I have a copy of my letter that I'll read, so you don't have to take notes. I'll just submit it to whoever.
Just identify yourself and your address for the record, please.
Kurt Johnson, 1 Fielding Woods Road, West Granby, Connecticut. And again, I'm going to read about a 1.5-page letter. Dear Chairman Ladati and Commission members, my name is Kurt Johnson, a 34-year resident of Granby. I support affordable housing in Connecticut and throughout the United States. I base my remarks on the IWWC March 13, 2004 meeting packet regarding Vessel 37 Hartford Avenue, a packet with a collection of 894 pages as of my last review. On page 11 of the packet, section titled Septic System, the first sentence reads, quote, "It is always Vessel's preference to connect public sewer if it is available at the property," close quote. To more clearly understand the issue, I made an impromptu visit to the Town of Granby Office of Community Development. In reviewing the as-built plans pertaining to the sewer lines in Hartford Avenue, the as-built plans did confirm that a sanitary sewer line exists and it runs east-southeast from the junction of Route 10-202 to a terminus at the corner of Bank Street. I calculated the distance from the Bank Street terminus to 37 Hartford Avenue Vessel to be in the range of 600 to 700 linear feet. After inquiring with site utility trades, an estimate for installing sanitary sewer lines was communicated to be approximately $175 per linear foot. The estimate presumes excavating of standard subsurface material, parentheses, absent of any significant rock and/or need for sustained dewatering, close parentheses. The trench depths cuts 5 to 6 feet with installation of 6 to 8 inch PVC pipe, set in proper bedding with code-compliant pipe cover and backfilling of the trench with the excavated material. Factoring the sanitary sewer line at $175 per linear foot, the estimated project cost is $122,000 based on 700 linear feet. With Vessel's current proposal of 42 units, approximate cost is $2,904 per unit, and based on a 10-year/120-month expense recapture amortization schedule, the per-month cost is only $24 a unit. I did not explore the existence of stormwater lines in Hartford Avenue, hence no estimated cost. However, it appeared there are stormwater drains in Hartford Avenue in very close proximity to the corner of Hartford Avenue and Bank Street. I was informed that there is a construction cost efficiency factor that can be applied to reduce overall installation costs where regulatory agencies and site conditions allow for both sanitary sewer and stormwater pipes to be installed in the same trench. Like most startup development projects, whether it's commercial, real estate, residential, the team of professionals create pre-development and post-development budgets to ascertain cash flow forecasts and permanent financing amortization schedules. Once the construction project is completed, there is normally a timely conversion to a permanent mortgage with various amortization schedules offered, beneficial to the buyer and seller when the project is sold and turned over to a new owner. The cost of sanitary sewer and stormwater management are obviously included in the overall project expense budgets. When taking into consideration the viability of a residential multi-unit housing project, I believe it is reasonable to look out over the next 50 years and beyond to ensure health and safety measures are implemented now for the benefit of the property neighbors, the building residents, and the area of wetlands that I understand also include the east and west branch of the Salmon Brook. Vessel has the opportunity now to seriously consider the cost benefit associated with the installation of 700 linear feet of sanitary sewer lines and explore the possibility of installing stormwater lines to the site as well. These costs would be factored into the pre-development cost budget of Vessel. The replacement of the proposed on-site subsurface sewage disposal system and the possible replacement of the proposed on-site stormwater management system as well. Respectfully submitted, Kurt Johnson. Do you each want a copy or one? Does this go to somebody?
You can pass it up to me. If you have extra copies, I'm sure the commission would like.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Anybody want?
sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, sir.
Looks good.
Anyone else from the public would like to speak? Come on up. Thank you.
Reinhard Meyer, 138 Day Street. I will be brief. I'm going to follow up on Mrs. Kenyon's comments and Mr. Johnson's comments. As I indicated last time I was up here, I am a Connecticut professional engineer, retired status. There is no technical reason why, as indicated by Mr. Johnson, that you can hook up to the sewer. As a matter of fact, based upon what I've seen, as a result of a FOIA request and documents received today, Mrs. Kenyon has not requested the information, any commentary or review by the town engineer. So that is my full comment to that. We can, if we have to, hook up without any technical difficulty. Administrative issues I'm not going to discuss at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Come on up.
Flanagan, Wood Cliff Drive. I've said this before, I'm going to make it quick. If you just look back at this 1.4 acres, actually an acre, it's too much of an impact, the whole development. The other thing I'm concerned about is back when Vessel first came to the town, they said that they were all approved by this another board, wetlands and zoning, back in 2007. Well, back in 1985, the Wetlands Board, and I believe the Zoning Board, made Rushford Mead put in a forced pump station hooking up to the sewer on Bank Street. That was done back in 1985. So that's considered past practice, okay, for the town of Granby. Now, Sunday I was down there, I had boots in the mud, you could say, and the farm road on the north side, which is only 60 feet from the back of the lot, was all underwater. So Vessel, when they came here the last meeting last month, they had changed their distance from, they kept saying they were 200 feet. They said the running water course was about 154 feet, and they were 72 feet from the wetlands. Actually, they're only 60 feet. This project is right on top of the wetlands at 60 feet, okay? Another thing, Andover is used as a state guideline in DEP. You're supposed to be 200 feet. We're looking at 60 feet. You have a 32-degree angle down. And you know, soil is good for septic, sandy soil is good for septic, but it's not good when you have water or storm water heading down in there, which will drag nitrogen and other, negative components down there. It's not good. If that becomes contaminated down there, you're going to have it's going to be a bad situation for the town, and you're going to have a health problem. That's not good here. It's not good at all. And another question I have for the board, I'm a little confused, maybe somebody can answer. How come there was never a DEP permit pulled here? Is it up to the boards to suggest that? Because of the federally protected wetland in the back, that should be done. And then somebody told me the other day, perhaps a Army Corps engineer, because of the federally protected area in the back. That's my question here. Why wasn't that done? And who has jurisdiction to enforce that or recommend it?
Are you talking about the wild and scenic designation?
No, I'm not talking about the wild scenic. Just overall, why wasn't a DEP permit pulled out on this property to do the construction that they want to do because of the federally protected area in the back? That's my question.
Might be a question for council, but, in the wetlands, commissions are essentially charged with enforcing DEP's statutory scheme and regulation.
Well, I had a conversation with, several of us did, with a environmental group, which reports to the governor's office. And one of the board members is very adamant. He thought that there was, in this 37 Harford Avenue, a DEP permit pulled. And we repeatedly told him, no, there was not. I'm asking here.
Well, maybe you can get something in writing from this board member, directing the commission.
Well, we're doing something else too, which...
But I can't address,
well, I'm just asking a question here.
I'm just trying to respond.
Yeah.
And you're interrupting me. Thank you. You're asking the commission to comment on vague comments made by other people. We're just not going to do that.
Well, the commission, you guys are all members of the commission, okay? You should have, someone should have some kind of knowledge as to what is required, especially what we have in the back there, federally protected area. All these avenues should be looked at, and they should be considered. You've had soil scientists' reports, you've had, all this, and is there anything else that it should pop up? It should be considered.
If it pops up, we'll consider it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Ed DeLeon from Peterson Road. I've been working 40 years for engineers and architects, 5 years for an environmental engineering firm. And the comment I have about the application sounds like it's been very poorly done with lots of errors. And they also seem very arrogant about how they've done it. And I guess I have a question. I'm all for affordable housing, because otherwise where are our kids going to live? But is there some level at which, say, I saw that Simsbury knocked the number of vessel apartments in half. Is there some level at which we would be more comfortable? You know, we went down from 46 to 42. Is 30 better? Is there some level at which this development would be safer? And then, anyway, that's my question for you to think about anyway. I don't know that you can answer that to me.
It's
but-
probably a question better directed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. We just, our charge is to look at this
Well, I'm
application.
thinking of the load into the septic system.
Yeah.
If there were only 30 apartments, would that make the septic system more acceptable for you? Anyway, that's it.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes. Dr. Ungerleider, will you identify yourself?
Dr. Michael Ungerleider, over at Granby Dental Center. I'm actually the next door neighbor of this proposed project, and I can speak a lot of opposition on every part of it, but just specifically for wetlands, I can't believe that they are not required to do the sewers, okay? My building, which has an average of 10 people at work and up to 6 people. So we have like the most 16 people in there. We have a couple of bathrooms. Our septic system is in the front of the yard, okay, which is so it's not going in the direction of, anything would not go in the direction of the wetlands. It would go into maybe the street if it eventually got there. But that's pretty much all I'll say about that, and the fact that they're coming back and saying we're doing things, and they're not doing them. I mean, that is just unacceptable to me.
Thank you. Anyone else? Did any of the public comment raise any questions? Do you want to say something? I'm sorry, I didn't see you raise your hands.
I looked behind me to see if anyone was.
Okay, that's very polite of you, thank you.
I tried. Maureen Everly, Silky Road. I want to reiterate some of the concerns about the federally protected area. I have a question or two for Dr. Danzer, which, do you want me to go through you, Mr. Ladati, and to Dr. Danzer?
Sure.
I want to do this right. Attorney Ladati to Dr. Danzer, would there be any impact to the endangered species that are listed and those of special concern in the federally protected area? We seem to overlook that whole concept, and I want to reiterate that. Go ahead.
Dr. Danzer,
Can I just speak from here?
if you can speak loudly so everyone can hear
I'll just
you.
speak from here.
To the mic.
Now that I've come up here, I don't have a lot to offer on that. There's one question in my mind is there's been this term federally protected, which can mean a variety of things, so I'm not quite sure what the concept is basically which area we're talking about. But ignoring that, I don't recollect I really, to be honest, went into that issue for two reasons. One thing is, again, initially when I was involved with this, I was focused like a laser on the nitrogen impact. And as a wetland scientist, we are kind of trained to look at physical impact, mainly often on either fauna, basically the woody or marshy or herbaceous plants. Rarely do we get an opportunity to really evaluate the impact on the fauna because the case law is very kind of devilish on that issue, and it's just easier to kind of look at the more demonstrable effects, not to say that there isn't. So that's my long-winded explanation that I didn't really get into the heart of that. It didn't really bounce out at me as the issue that was integral, because I know that there was some question about I think there was a mussel involved, and there was something else, and those were, my understanding, those were farther downstream, I was kind of looking for on-site impacts. I believe the stream that goes through the wetland, at least right adjacent off-site, it may or may not be perennial. It might actually be intermittent. There was some question about it, and no one really got to the bottom of it. Unfortunately, when I evaluated it, it was a snapshot in time, so unless I went out there like 5 or 6 times over the year, I couldn't really opine on that. Well, that has an impact on some of the aquatic species, and at least one of those species, if I recollect, was an aquatic species, so I...
And 2 of special concern.
Yeah, 2 of special concern. And the other thing is that as a part of their stormwater permit, they will have to communicate with DEP, and those questions will be examined by DEP if they get that far with this application.
It was Ethan Neto who did the study and identified them there.
Yeah.
That one endangered and 2 of special concern. My other question is, we are in an El Nino period, and we have been for the past 2-3 years, and with that weather condition, there's rain, excessive rain, and according to Joe Fury, Channel 8 weatherman, we are now 6 inches currently above where we should be. And so, listening to your comment about nitrogen, that additional rainfall, which is, there's an unpredictable nature to it. However, with climate change, that concern increases. So, given that, would that affect and impact the nitrogen that eventually could flow down into there? Additional rain, the wind, the rain are all elements of erosion.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. I am not going to deliver an opinion about the efficiency of the septic. That's beyond my ability, and that's why we're all kind of waiting to see what the state says and on that. So I would have to defer as far as like the ability of the septic system to function on a higher thing about rainfall. But I will say with more rain, that's also more opportunity for dilution. And from the environmental perspective, that's not a bad thing. So you kind of have to balance that. On the other hand, as someone has pointed out, with more rain, you also have more puddles and you have more standing water. And as people pointed out, there's the question about the farm road. I know there was a discussion way before I was taken on board on whether or not there was another wetland area in one of that, and I don't know how it was adjudicated because I wasn't a part of that. But you'll see more and more of that, which, in a surface water connection is less opportunity for the nutrients to be mitigated by the plant life. It just goes downstream. So there is some of that. But on the other hand, there's also a dilution factor. So whether those 2 factors cancel each other out or not, I don't know.
There's a lot of unpredictability
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I have a question, Mr. Ladati, for Abby. Could you ask her, please, if the WPCA will weigh in on any of this? Or if they've already been contacted?
So the question is twofold. Has WPCA
Okay.
been contacted, and will they weigh on it once contacted? Do I have that right?
Yes?
Did you hear the question, Abby? Can you comment, please?
So, a little uncomfortable speaking for WPCA. However, I would imagine if something is presented to them, they would take it up in some form or another. But again, I don't want to speak for another board that I'm not authorized to speak for.
Okay. Thank you.
Those are my questions. But what I want to do is also bring to your attention, again, the unpredictability of the weather. That's got to weigh in here in light of climate change. We're looking about health and safety, and it is a concern when you can't predict, the weather. Mark Twain said, you don't like the weather in New England, wait a minute, and it'll change. But what we have, due to climate change, is a growing concern about, that weather pattern changing constantly. So we are in an El Nino weather. I get the impression that some of you may not want to approve this and you dislike this proposal, but however, you're reluctant to vote no. I urge you to have the courage, as others in neighboring towns have done, to go to court and let them decide. Many residents will be thankful. This proposal from the beginning has been fraught, as indicated tonight again, with wrong information, extended timelines, sloppy homework, and you have been told by Mr. Hollister that you will vote to approve this. You ever wonder why Mr. Hollister can tell you that? I want to bring to your attention my personal concerns and opinion about this. I question his ethics as he is a standing member of the Commission on Connecticut Development and Future. He is the co-chair of the Municipal Affordable Housing Plan. His participation on this commission allowed him and others to rewrite 8-30. I hope I have your attention because you're all looking down. And subsequently, he became an employee of a developer that now, as you know, has a very far-reaching effect on what local towns can do with their zoning. It has been challenging and difficult for us as town residents to sit through this, do our investigative work, and bring to your attention concerns that we've had that may not have been addressed by the commission. Please don't use the excuse that there's nothing we can do or they'll take us to court. Let them. After all, in my opinion, it's time for Mr. Hollister to walk the talk, as he said that this report that his group developed and his committee under the Commission of Connecticut Development and Future was developing, that it, quote, must take a balanced approach to affordable housing and recognize that one size does not fit all of Connecticut communities. There will be a menu with the goal of establishing recommendations suitable for individual municipalities, end of quote. He and his group also felt that, quote, affordable programs need to be balanced with environmental needs such as open space preservation, water quality, and climate change resiliency. Due to our structure of 169 separate cities and towns and reorganization of our urban, suburban, and rural areas, there is no one-size-fits-all program to be imposed or recommended, end of quote. I'll leave you with those thoughts to consider. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Robert James, address suppressed due to, well, my active employment. So overall, what we've heard today, I can say, as I've worked with numerous judicial districts within the state of Connecticut, you've heard now fraudulent misinterpretation or misrepresentation from Vessel throughout this entire process, as all the public citizens here have done all the legwork, all the research on this entire topic. And now it's come across that there's conflict of interest as well. Those are both grounds to toss an application out immediately. And if you guys are trying to figure out if you should say yay or nay to this, you have more than enough to say nay, just based on the fraudulent misrepresentation as itself. Seems pretty clear to me, and in closing arguments, very easy to say no. And if you do not, you're definitely not doing your due diligence to our town.
Sir, can you explain the conflict of interest comment?
Well, considering the fact that their lawyer sat there and drafted out the legal statutes for 30G and J, and then is profiting off of working for the developers to create these so-called affordable housing. That's a direct conflict of interest for financial gain.
Any other research? Sure. Anyone else from the public?
They don't know you take a course. You have to do all this stuff, right?
John Marone on Maple Hill Drive. In hearing all this, it's concerning to what's really going on. I think reputation and honesty is a big factor. I know sometimes people feel pressure or get pressured, or there's implications of pressure, or things that go that maybe shouldn't be happening. But you do represent the town, you represent all of us, and you represent yourselves and your families and everybody here. And the best thing to do, I think, or the right thing to do is consider the source, consider the people. Maureen said it, you have connected people doing things, working for profit, Vessel, Vanguard, BlackRock, it's a very deep pool. It's taking over a lot of property, a lot of single-family homes. In Atlanta, Georgia, where I worked and sold real estate, they're buying subdivisions of 1,000 homes, on and on and on. You talk about overpopulation or a lot of people in units. I have friends that live all over. There's some property on 127 Babcock Street, 17 people living in one place. Friend owns stuff on Hamilton, 9 people live in one unit, 8 people live in another unit. I saw 6 people at the Grandview Motel going in and out of one unit. Go down the Berlin Turnpike, go check it out, go across from the diner. Go in those places and see the volume of people that will probably be visiting us permanently in these units. It's never been said that this is affordable. I don't know if it's affordable. A lot of these are franchised. I don't think you can franchise. Now, I know I'm getting beyond this, but I'm just trying to get people to think that, honesty is really important. Mistakes are fine. Making a mistake or doing things, I understand. But if you come up and just sort of intimidate, well, I can get it done. He may be able to get it done. Based on my life in the past, you probably could get it done. But you probably, I hope, will think what others have said, and others have done a lot of work. I don't know the extent of the effort or work you've done. I know you're all busy. Hopefully you've done your due diligence as well. But I think we don't want America like this. We really don't. Helping people with affordable housing is one thing. This is a big plan that's going all over. You're not going to like it. In Atlanta, Georgia, you don't go to a gas station. People come to your house and you guard to put your gas in your car. I don't think you want it. And that's an expensive section of town. So I say, I hope you do the right thing and just deny this. And what comes of it, comes of it. If he sues you, he probably will. He's connected. Maybe it'll work out for him. But at least stand up. Let's be proud of ourselves and stand up and say no.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, there's someone on Zoom.
Oh, someone on Zoom.
Hi, is this someone on Zoom?
Yes. So.
Okay.
You're the only one we see.
Sorry. I just have a quick clarification question that I'm curious about. Last session, the applicant indicated that they...
Can you identify yourself for the record, please?
Oh, yeah, I apologize. This is Michael Ware. I live at 4500 Road. The last month, the applicant had indicated that they had received guidance from the town to tie into the septic system was not possible. I believe they were sort of incredulous that it had even been brought up. Abby's testimony tonight indicates that accomplishing that tie-in would require an additional approval step through the WPCA. Do I have that correct? Which, that may be improbable, but can I get any clarification about what direct guidance the town had provided the applicant on this issue? Because they seem pretty adamant that they had been told that this was not an option for them. Were they told that this was not an option for them, or were they told that this was an improbable option for them? I just want some clarification on that point. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Abby testified that there may have been a gap of misunderstanding with the term unavailable. Do you want to comment on that, Abby? She used that term in one sense, it sounded like.
Yeah, so to address that comment, I think it goes back to the first application that was submitted in my October 26th memo, which I think is part of the record on this current application. So you're welcome to review that as part of the meeting packet. But yes, it's my understanding that there was some confusion about that. It's not currently available. And then I subsequently clarified in February and then with my latest.
You clarified what the steps would be to extend that,
Yep.
that sewer line. Thank you. That's what I understood.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other public comment, questions? Has any of the public comment raised any questions from the commission or comments from commission members? No? Cameron? Anything raised for you that you want to comment by the public commentary?
No.
Okay. So, there's a request to continue the public hearing. I do have before we take that up, Mr. Hollister, if you're willing to, can you comment on Ms. Flanagan's statement that no plans have been submitted as of this morning to either the state or the local authorities?
Again, I'm not the engineer, I'm not in the thick of this, but my understanding is, or I should say the suggestion is, are there plans sitting at DPH that are final plans that are waiting approval? The answer is probably no. My engineer, excuse me, I have the floor, thank you. My engineer told me that he has been in communication with DPH about revisions to the plans. That is what I know. That would suggest that he has the plans because he's working on them, and therefore they're not in the hands of the DPH. That's all I can tell you.
What about, the last time there was, when we considered continuing the public, can we have some quiet, because it is hard to hear in this room, there is a lot of comment in the back. And I gave everyone ample opportunity to speak. So we have some questions I'd like answers to before we take up this issue of continuing the public hearing. So at the last hearing, there was a lot of conversation about the fact that the septic plans, as they were being revised, had not been given to Farmington Valley Health District. Can you tell us what the status of that is? Because I think that was one of the reasons we continued the hearing tonight, to see that and to get some input from Abby about the sewers.
Yeah, I don't know the exact status. All I know is it's been being worked on in parallel with the DPH. And those are interactive, is my understanding.
But it's not in this proposal.
I'm sorry?
It's not in the proposal.
It's not in the proposal.
It's not in any of the, we don't
The
have.
approval, yeah.
It's not there, so
Oh.
what are we waiting for then? So
Farmington Valley Health.
unless they're going to amend it, are they suggesting they're going to amend it?
Yeah, they're working on.
Remember, we were here last year. At that point, DPH and Farmington Valley Health District had both approved the septic system. Then the nitrogen issue came up, we reduced the density.
Right, but it was brought up about the sewer. We talked about the sewer at length.
Correct.
And then you guys pulled it.
Well, we ran out of time to address the
Okay.
issues, but that's. we
So
didn't
we've
have
been
a
talking
choice.
about the sewer since you guys came back. We've been talking about the sewer since,
Okay.
when?
Are we talking about septic, Farmington Valley Health sewers? I think you lost me.
We're talking about the sewer. I mean, I think even Fred was on the record immediately mentioning the sewer,
Why don't we do
like,
sewer?
on the first night.
Sewer's not available. Mr. Colville, was my memo from last week distributed to the commissioners?
It was.
Well, you have my answer in writing on the sewers several days ago. That's all I can tell you about sewers.
So then what are we waiting for? Why do you want an extension?
Oh, because we are still working on the plan, which depends in large part on the location and size and engineering of the septic system. My engineer is going back and forth with DPH and I guess Farmington Valley Health District. We're waiting on that, and we have 14 or 15 questions from the February 14th hearing, to which we are preparing written answers, but they're not done yet because the engineering work is not done yet. I would respectfully suggest it's the applicant's choice as to whether we continue the hearing. you can't close the hearing tonight and, I mean, you can close it and vote on it. I think your council would advise you against that, because we have a right to the full time period that's allowed in the statutes, and we're using it. We did not, and Commissioner, let me explain. I did not want to come here tonight and give you a third of the answers or half the answers. We're waiting until we have all the answers to when they're going to come
We've
back.
got a public hearing for like 6 months, so I think, what else are we gonna, are there any other questions?
There are a whole bunch of questions from the 14th of February that we have not finished our written
We
responses.
should have brought that tonight.
Well, if we had been able to, we would have, but we didn't. We're not finished.
When do you expect to get answers in regards to the approvals? I mean, you must be in communication with them. They must be telling you, well, we've got this to do, this to do.
Yes, Mr.
And that's
Johnson.
going to take 2 weeks.
And as I told you, I'm not the engineer, I'm not in the thick of those conversations.
You're one of the key people. You're right in the middle of it.
Yes, but I'm not an engineer. If you give me nitrogen calculations, my eyes glaze over and I fall asleep. So I don't have the technical or the engineering stuff for you tonight. All I can tell you is I will commit on the record tonight, if the hearing is continued to April 10th, you will have our final written submission by April 3rd. Everybody will have time to read it. We'll present it on April 10th, and then we should be able to close the hearing. And that will be...
Excuse me, no.
Wait, we've had a lot of public comment. This is a very narrow question that I posed. I'm beginning to regret posing it, but the question was brought up by the public, whether those applications have been filed.
No, they haven't.
If you let me finish, I did not interrupt you. I never interrupted you.
Excuse me.
Listen to me. I am the one who
No.
called.
Excuse me.
Farmington Valley
Order,
Hill.
please.
Order, please.
Point of order, she gave you the answer. They haven't done a single thing.
Sir,
They're grandstanding you.
sir, you have not been acknowledged by the chair.
I said point of order. You have to acknowledge that.
Okay, point of order denied.
Robert, no, it is. Bullshit. Robert's rules.
Did I give you all an opportunity to address the commission?
Yes, sir.
Now I have a very, you talk about cutting off your nose and spite your face. Okay? I asked him a very narrow question.
And he gave you a very broad answer.
Yeah, and we've heard it. We've heard the answer. Okay? You don't need to tell me what he told us. That it's not,
I'm not gonna do
the
that.
revised plans are not at the state or the local. We get it. Thank you.
But what you don't get is...
No.
Yes.
You had a long opportunity to speak. You don't need to lecture me.
I still have minutes on the clock.
That's not true.
That's not true. You don't need to lecture me, Ms. Everly. Please.
No,
Please.
I don't buy your
Thank you.
rationalizing.
You can call it rationalizing. But I gave you the opportunity to speak, you spoke.
How
Now
did
we're
I
just
know?
have one question for this
How did I know
gentleman.
what he
He's trying to answer it. So if the public would just allow him to answer it, maybe we can move to the pending issue as to whether we continue this public hearing. We'd like to get to that point tonight. Thank you. So what I understand is that your plans are still under revision and have not been submitted as of this morning to Farmington Valley Health District in terms of the septic, nor to the Department of Public Health, correct?
That's my understanding.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I do have a question. So you're saying with your memo, you're not considering anything with the sewers? It's totally out of question?
It's totally out of the question, and for everyone who spoke on the sewer, including Ms. Kenyon, please call the Department of Transportation, that same state department that just paved the intersection of 202 and 189, and ask their position on it, which I recounted in my memo. They said, no way, no how.
And my other question is, are there any other places, any other apartment buildings that you've built that have a septic system? And if so, can you provide us with that information at the next meeting? Before the next meeting?
Okay, well, the four in Connecticut that I have worked on for Vessel are all connected to sewer, that's all I can tell you.
I'm sorry, they're all connected to the sewer?
Yeah.
They're all connected, yes. That's Cheshire, Simsbury, Rocky Hill, and New London.
So, I'm sorry, I'm so confused what we're waiting for. What's new next month? What's new next month? Why-
Nothing
I'm so
new,
confused.
nothing new. We're going to be responding to the questions that were raised by the public, by your staff, and on February 14th. We don't have anything new to present.
So do we need a public hearing, or we would just have them
There's a-
submitting?
Well, there's a motion to, there's a question, the applicant has asked us to continue the public hearing, but Mr. Hollister made a comment that he's entitled to the full statutory period. Do you want to comment? My understanding is that you're not entitled to it, you can consent to the extension of the statutory time period, which you have done. It's still within the discretion of the commission as to whether they continue this public hearing.
Well, I'm going to respectfully disagree, Mr. Chair. We have to consent in order to exceed a time frame, but I believe we have a right where we have not been able to finish our presentation to the extra time. And I'll look at your town attorney, and I believe that's part of the rights that you have under the statutes.
Do you want to comment on that, Attorney Roberts?
I don't have the statute in front of me, but I think, we can consent to, they can consent to our request for an extension.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way, Mr. Hollister, you certainly have done more zoning than applications before inland wetlands, but my understanding was that you can waive the statutory timeline, and it's within our discretion to continue this past that if you waive it. But, my question, I don't want to play devil's advocate, and I do respect your expertise in this area, but that's always been my understanding, that, you're not necessarily entitled to it, but you can waive the statutory period to allow the commission more time. But the commission certainly has it, you probably don't agree with this, but don't they have it within their, and I'm not going to vote on it, I've recused myself, but isn't it the commission's discretion as to whether they close this public hearing and then consider whether the application before them is complete or incomplete?
I don't think you have that discretion, and I would hold there's another principle in land use law and administrative proceedings. Again, Attorney Roberts will back me up. It's called fundamental fairness. I've given you the facts on which we based our request for additional time. I don't see any prejudice to putting this over till the next month. If you were to close the hearing and deny the applicant the ability to finish our presentation, if you presented that to a judge, what would the judge do? I think you know the answer to that.
Yeah, you wouldn't, maybe.
I don't know what a judge would do.
Well, I don't think a judge would look favorably
Don't
upon that.
be played, trust me. I have experience in the end of the world.
Please.
Don't be played.
All right, so I'm going to put it to the commission. There's a request that we continue the public hearing. Somebody want to make a motion? Is that a motion? Are you making a motion? Oh, you don't want to make a motion?
I'll move that we continue the public hearing, because I think that it's only fair that we don't have all the information. And what have we lost by
But if we,
waiting
if
for
we
more
close
information?
the public hearing, they can still come back, correct?
Correct.
Right. If we close the public hearing, they can get their act together whenever they get it together, and they can come back, instead of dragging this on another month, when they tell us, a week before that they don't have all the information, that it's not done. We've been at this a long time.
Since June.
Okay.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All in favor of continuing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Raise your
Aye.
hands, please, so the record's clear. I have 1, 2,
I think we should continue it, yeah.
3, 4. Opposed? 1. Abstentions? 1. All right, so the motion carries. The public hearing will be continued with the plaintiffs at the applicant's request and with their consent. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything we can do if we don't have the information? We can't really, April 3rd, if we don't have.
We have to address it then.
Yeah.
And that's their last chance?
No.
I mean, that time frame he was talking about, would that be ended?
We'll take it
But
up.
there's a total of 65 days of extensions that are permitted, and this just uses the first
Yeah.
28 of them.
Question in the back?
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick, two things.
If it's beyond what we just decided.
It's going to be
we can-
short. It's going to be short. I'm confused, and I also want to be supportive. Kurt Johnson. So I've been reading a lot of the documents, and I will say Abby's done a phenomenal job coming back and answering questions that I'm perplexed as to why there was this disconnect. Because anyone could have walked in from the developer and gone in and looked at as-built the way I did and figured out the sewer line disconnect where it was. Bank Street.
Mr. Johnson, I don't want to reopen this conversation.
Okay,
I mean,
but
we addressed the issue.
That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that the clarity brought to this raised a lot of confusion.
I understand. We've continued the public hearing. There will be another public hearing. We have other business we have to deal with tonight. Thank you all for coming. For those of you who are staying, we're going to go to the next agenda item 3B, 233 West Granby Road, Katie and Valentine, permit application to construct a 24 by 24 carport, 18 by 36 above-ground swimming pool, 12-foot by 10-foot gazebo, and rear deck within a regulated area. The commission set this down for a public hearing because this is significant activity in a public area, and there may be public interest in that application. Is anyone here from the applicant?
Yes.
Come on forward and identify yourself, please, and tell us where you're from.
Omar Baker from 233 West Granby Road, Granby, Connecticut, 06035.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. What do you want to say about the application?
Can you repeat what you said just a few minutes ago? You said that, I know you said the gazebo, the carport.
Yeah, so we have an application signed by, I don't think it was signed by you.
Valentine? Kate and Valentine?
Kate and Valentine.
Yeah.
Kate, yeah.
Right.
Seeking approval for, to construct a 24-foot by 20-foot for carport, 24-foot carport, 18-foot by 36-foot above-ground swimming pool, 12 by 10-foot gazebo, and a rear deck within a regulated area. In other words, that's within the wetlands area that we're charged with regulating.
Okay. And your question to me was whether I have to...
Yeah, it was signed by Katie and Valentine. I guess you're here as a representative
Yes.
according to the application.
Yeah, she's out of the country at this moment.
Okay, so what do you want to tell us about the application?
Telling, I don't really have anything to tell her, just pretty much was here to see pertaining to what I asked in the future we would like to get done in the property. And I was informed that is a regulation towards the stream in the back. And I guess I'm here today to see if something will be approved or not.
Okay, so we need to know a little bit about the application. Cameron, what do you know about the application? It sounds like Katie has been playing the lead on your application.
Well, actually, I am the lead. It does happen between me and her, so sometimes I'm at work, so she able to get here versus when I get out from work, you guys close. So it's pretty much really me personally. That's my fiance.
Okay.
Yes.
So Cameron, can you flesh it out a little bit for the commission?
Sure. So I had received information that work was being conducted without a wetland permit, and I scheduled a visit with the property owners to go out and inspect the site and see what was being done and what has been done. I do have photos taken from January 4th upon that inspection, so it's this whole thing. Because of the amount of photos, it's just one set, and you can just look through them individually and pass all the photos down. Most of the vegetation on the property had been stripped. And there was a large trash pile, and it was stripped right up to the edge of the stream that runs through the back of the property, as identified on maps in the packet. And the large pile of trash and other debris was abutting the stream as well. So I had originally discussed with the property owners that any work does need a wetland permit, and that the site should be stabilized as soon as possible, and that it was a possibility that the commission would vote to issue a notice of violation, which happened at the last meeting, and that in addition to that notice of violation, a wetland permit is still needed to continue and to do any other further work in this area, as the entire property is within the upland review area. So that said, let's see what else. Yep, and so in discussions, I suggested that any and all plans that they have for the future be put onto this application, so that they don't have to come back and get a new permit, saving both the commission and the applicant time and money, provided that they have plans fleshed out for everything that they want to do. And so that's sort of my introduction, and any other questions or comments, please let me know. The only big question that I had regarding the stabilization of the site was, when any erosion controls were going to be placed, and what erosion controls were going to be used and where they'd be located. And then also what's going to be done with that large trash pile. What's the timeline on removal of that, and how is that planned to be removed?
Well, the trash pile pretty much would have been moved. It's just a simple fact, as I was notified at that time from you that do not disturb anything else on the property until I present myself in this meeting. And the silk fence is the same thing. Do not disturb anything until I go ahead and install it. The silk fence, so just in case if anything gonna go to the stream. So pretty much here today to find out when can I go ahead and secure the things that remove what I need to remove from the property.
I see.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if that was a miscommunication on my part. It was not my intention to say that erosion controls could not be installed until this public hearing, but rather that the commission would like to see erosion controls installed as soon as possible to prevent additional sediment from entering the stream and any other additional pollution. And removal of the trash pile, I would assume, would pose no impact, negative or otherwise, to the water course. And the rest had been previously maintained as lawn, and so I don't think there'd be any wetland impact either with trash removal or the installation of erosion controls. And so, in my opinion, that should be done as soon as possible, and not necessarily something that the commission has to approve to install erosion controls or remove debris and trash.
Yeah, because even when I was here to submit the application for the permit, I even brought it to her attention, and I was informed that not to touch anything, not to do anything in the property until further notice. So when I thought about it, I was thinking it really didn't make any sense to me personally, because if our concern is to get something in the creek, then I should go ahead and secure it until now. But it was a miscommunication, understanding what you said.
Yeah, and so I can understand the misunderstanding there. So just to clarify, I think either my or Abby's point or whoever else's is that what we were asking not be continued was any additional development that you were planning, any other land clearing or installation of, improvements to the property or anything like that, but just that the erosion controls and the trash be taken care of as soon as possible. That is allowed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I did mention that I will be doing anything else till actually the weather, because it's in the winter, so I wasn't able to do any outside work at that time.
Okay.
Okay, so it was misunderstanding. So I'll get definitely jump on that.
Yeah, good.
just as a point of clarification, there are no wetlands on the property, there is just a water course?
You asking me if it was no wetland? It was just a water course?
Well, I'm reading from the application, and it says here, wetlands to be impacted, 0. Wetlands located on the property, 0. But, so I'm just trying to understand the situation. So we're really only dealing with the water course that goes through there, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, if I may clarify that, there are no mapped wetlands in this area, and the course, or the water course is not mapped either. It can be seen through GIS and was kind of drawn in a little darker on the map included in the packet here. But otherwise, it's all maintained as lawn in this, on this property, and so any other wetlands that may be on adjacent properties have not been mapped or identified.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious because I used to live on Day Street South. It's a very wet area. And a number of these water courses are coming down off the hill. There's one that came through my property. Okay.
But we have jurisdiction
Over the
because
water
of
course,
the water
yes.
course
Yeah.
and
Yeah, 200.
200 feet.
Yes,
Yeah.
correct, yeah,
which
so.
is off out in the street.
Yes, correct, yeah.
Yeah.
The entire property is
Yeah.
located in the upland review
Right.
area, yes.
Right.
I guess I'm a little confused. You issued a notice of violation, so we have the stripping of the soil, we have the stockpiling of trash, we got all these, there's no erosion controls. And the application, the idea was have them do an application, incorporated in that application would be the remediation for all these things. But when you look at the application, it talks about a silt fence, and it's got some, indication on the aerials as to where the silt fence goes, but that's the extent of discussion about protecting the water course, and it doesn't discuss at all the remediation of the site. So how do we address that, Cameron?
Yeah, so, I was thinking, in the short term, that for the purposes of further development, that silt fence would be a recommended erosion control given the slope and the size of the site, so it's not an excessively large contributing area. So silt fence in and of itself, without any additional measures if installed correctly and in the locations noted on the map, should provide adequate erosion control. That said, I think that possibly the silt fence should be extended all the way to the property line, and then with sort of the wing that's drawn on here, maintain that as best as possible towards the property line, and then extend the wing down towards, trying to think of the exact direction without a north-south arrow, but east. East. Down the road, wrap around a little bit more and provide. Oh, that's west.
That's
Okay.
west.
Well, in looking at this photo, right side up, on the left side, have the wing of the silt fence be extended to capture any additional sediment that could possibly enter the water course. As the water course then wraps around the side and I believe is channelized underneath the roadway. Yeah. So with those recommendations, I think that would provide adequate erosion control. That said, for the purposes of remediation, I think a detailed planting plan should be included as well with native vegetation along the border of the stream to provide future erosion control, and seeding plan be used as well for either temporary and or permanent seeding, since that was not necessarily included in the plan. I think it's reasonable to assume that was part of the plan, was permanent seeding of grass in
Correct.
the lawn area, but it's not on the plan, and so I just wanted to clarify that and include that temporary seeding may be required by the commission or be a condition of a permit that's received and for the purposes of remediation, a detailed planting plan to be approved by the commission, I think is necessary.
Okay, I want to say one thing also. So we did have a building permit for that property, so we did not, knowledge enough to know that a building property versus a wetland property. So we have no knowledge of that at the moment. And also the septic, when he was there, he was exposed. So we had to find the septic to expose it to know where was that located in the property. So I understand that when I did that also, I needed a permit to even expose the septic, which now I know, pretty much. And in the back, like you said, it just pretty much where it was getting the ground ready, to get all of the weed and the grass out. For this season, we go ahead and lime it, seed it, to get, some type of grass in the backyard. So pretty much the trash is just, furniture, boxes, that when we did that whole complete renovation for that property. And that's pretty much the trash pile that was actually there. There's no type of hazmat type of thing that's sitting there, but still it's a trash pile, so you need to be out of there. Okay.
So that raises an interesting, I realize you have a building permit. Is everything shown on the plan in your building permit? In other words, that deck you're talking about, that was covered by the building permit?
It was.
Abby's saying
it
no.
was saying it was speak up, but not necessarily written inside of the.
Okay, yeah, it has to be in the building permit.
Right.
The
So
deck
when
has
we
to be-
decided, sorry, I mean to cut you.
Yeah, no, things like a deck, I'm not sure about above-ground pools. Depends what's connected to the, I forget the regulation, but I think you ought to meet with the building official to make sure you have the proper building permits, and that will probably implicate some of the permits the approval you're gonna need within this plan. For instance, your narrative says currently the basement floods and the foundation is in need of waterproofing.
Correct.
And you want to install curtain drains. I'm sure to do that, you're going to need a building permit, no? But you will need a wetlands permit to put curtain drains to
So-
drain the basement in a regulated area.
If I'm not mistaken, I did state that on the permit also.
In the building permit?
In the wetlands permit.
Oh, yeah, okay. So we need to see where those curtain drains are discharged as well.
Yeah, and I can help clarify this in the
Okay.
narrative.
Yeah, we can use some clarification.
So there's been one building permit on the property, so nothing shown here has been issued a building permit. We haven't received a building permit, and nor would one be issued because it would require wetlands approval first.
Okay.
So what is shown on here, including the curtain drains, is what the applicant is seeking this commission to approve. So specifically excavating around the foundation for the curtain drains, there's an outlet pipe shown in the northwest corner of the property. And then down the road, again, looking to install the deck, the pool to the west of the deck, gazebo area, and then add a carport to the front of the property.
Okay.
And he is showing a stockpile location when some of that work done. So it's, as Cam mentioned, when we met with the applicant on site, we encouraged him to think about what he wants to do down the road, because once a permit is issued, it is good for 5 years. So this would be an opportunity for him to kind of lay things out and then be able to do the work, according to his plans.
Okay, that clarifies it, because I was confused by the comment that there was a building permit, because the building official would have said, no, you have to come here first.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's no building permits for all
For
these.
this work,
Okay.
correct. Yeah.
That's why.
Joe did mention, when I mentioned about the deck, he said we'd have to
Yep.
get a separate
Okay.
permit for that.
So
I have a question on the curtain drain, because you show a pipe, curtain drain's gonna go around the house, then you've got a pipe coming out from the curtain drain, and it looks like it just kind of ends. Where is the water that comes into the curtain drain going to be going?
Gonna be exit? Where would it be exited?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, so pretty much it would be facing the street, the right side of the corner of the house to a catch base that's located in the street at the corner of West Day Street.
Yeah, Day Street South. Yeah.
Correct. And I just want to say one point here that I noticed since I've been living there. Like, if it rains and it gets real cold, I could literally see where all the water coming from the top of the hill, running to the side in front of my driveway, it's become icy, because I'm assuming that everybody else's drain pretty much runs through the driveway, down the street, and that kind of make an icy condition coming up the driveway.
Yeah.
So I figure, instead of having that going to the driveway, is a catch basin right here at the corner, and it would pretty much be the leach field to the catch base itself.
And this is on a slope, so that
Correct.
the
Like,
pipe,
once there,
the
it just
pipe
pretty much,
will be coming to the surface.
at some point.
Yeah.
Yes, because once, where it's actually shown here, it's pretty much a drop.
Yeah.
Going from there to the street.
Any more questions?
We can accept it.
We need to accept the application.
Yeah.
Make a motion to accept it.
Second?
Second.
Vicki, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay. So this was a public hearing. Do we want to close the public hearing? Oh, we didn't ask for comments from the public. So, any comments from the public?
Good back here.
I make a motion to close this public meeting.
Meeting, the whole
That's
meeting.
a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Fred, second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. So, it seems to, I don't know that we're in a position to decide. I'd really like to see a plan that shows
Yeah.
the suggestions that you've made. I mean, I'd feel, we could,
Not a picture.
we could do an approval with conditions, but I think there needs to be a little more detail on this plan.
Yeah, it would be my recommendation that that the commission continue it until the next meeting so that those issues can be addressed in a subsequent plan.
Okay. Do you understand what we just did?
Yeah.
We close the public hearing, you'll get some input from the staff, from our staff, and then make the adjustments to your plan, and we'll take it up at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And anything that you need from me in the meantime, just feel free to reach out by email or by phone.
Okay, so one question. So you're pretty much gonna need something more in a drawing format for the whole drainage system and all that stuff.
And the planting.
And the planting, yeah.
Plantings.
And the planting.
Yes.
I think I need her here for that.
Okay.
All right, thank you. I'm all set?
Yes, sir, Mr. Baker, thank you. All right, item number 4, request for review, 142R Silver Street, Andrew Bossy, RFR, to conduct timber harvesting within a regulated area.
He's up there.
Oh, there he is. Sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Bossy.
Yep.
Yeah, my name's Andrew Bossy. I'm a consulting forester from New Hartford, involved with a timber harvest on the Karen and Karen property at 142 Lower Silver Street. I don't know if you have it in front of you, along with my application, I submitted a narrative description of the project and some maps and schematics. Essentially, the main reason we're here, the project involves a stream crossing as part of the timber harvest. I was actually involved with the timber harvest on the same property back in 2002, so about 22 years ago. And it's the exact same site. It's actually an existing I guess you'd call it like an old farm road that's sort of got grown up over the years, and they actually had like an existing crossing site over the wetland and the stream area. It's like the approaches have been like cobbled in. What we propose to do is just put a portable temporary bridge, which is sort of a standard best management practice for timber harvesting for the duration of the project to cross. And then, remove it when it's done, and then restore all the trip bills and regrading, seeding, and things like that. That's sort of a quick, trying to be brief, that's sort of a quick, in the nutshell, description of what we're doing. It's just wanted to, do you folks happen to have like the maps or anything in front of you?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, we do.
Okay, so on the map itself, you can kind of see where the location of it, as far as access point, which is off of, at the end of Sutton Drive, there's a cul-de-sac. Same spot we used 22 years ago. It shows the wetland across the back, and then the crossing site. In fact, that old farm road I mentioned, you can actually still see it on the USGS topographic maps. I didn't include that with the map packet that I submitted, but it actually still shows the road. And then I also included a soil map and description of the soils on the property, just, I guess, for your benefit, just to show, what's on the property. Essentially, there's a strip of wetland area on the eastern side, and there's a strip of upland behind it in the back. That's the main reason for crossing, just to provide access to that area. And then further, towards the end of the packet, I included just sort of a schematic of a typical stream crossing or wetland crossing with the timber mat bridges, and then the last was actually a photograph of one that we did in Park Hampstead several years ago, crossing Beaver Brook. That's sort of a typical setup. It shows the what's called corduroy, essentially just laying pole timber down, the approaches, and then elevating the bridge above the stream. So in this case, it was done in summertime, so obviously it was pretty dry. You can see the dry summer, the stream really didn't have much in it, but in case it did flow, there was room for it to go underneath the bridge. I think that's about it in a nutshell. Just wanted to answer any questions you folks might have.
I have a question. On the crossing, on your schematic, it shows that the supports are clearly outside of the stream bed. On the pictures, it looks like the supports are actually in the stream bed. Would you just confirm that they will be outside?
It's just sort of a general schematic and a general application. Sometimes they actually do have to put the logs, depending on the width, the logs to support it on the edge of the stream. In fact, I have a project in Avon that just got started up recently at Avon Old Farm School, and actually visited today with their inland wetlands agent, because we did have actually a pretty significant stream crossing. It was probably about like a 20-foot wide stream, and they had to put two large logs kind of just along the bank in the edge of the stream to have enough width to support the bridge. But it's all removed when it's done, so it's not like anything permanent is being deposited.
And how long will your timber harvest take, do you expect?
I'm guessing it's going to take, it depends on the size of the crew who does the job. We just awarded a contract to the high bidder, which is Sossassimo Lumber Company out of Brattleboro, Vermont. I'm not sure which crew they're going to use, and it depends on the size, but I would say 2 months to 3 months roughly, depending.
And what time frame?
Again, I'm not sure what they have in mind. They'll have an 18-month contract. It's in the language of the contract stipulates that it has to be done when it's either dry or frozen. I'm in charge as far as monitoring the whole project for my client, and so I can basically make the call, if I feel it's too wet. For instance, like this past winter, it probably would have been a little bit too wet, but things are starting to dry out as spring's coming around. There's a good chance they'll probably be doing it in either summer or early autumn, which actually would be ideal. But I'm not positive. I mean, I can relay that information to you folks, when I actually get it and talk to the lumber company.
Any other questions for the, yeah, you can ask.
Where is this parcel in relation to Disnell Brook? It's up on the hill or over the hill?
I'm not sure where Dismal Brook is, to be honest with you. Is that?
It's gotta be around here somewhere.
Probably over here.
This is my backyard, so it's gotta be around here somewhere.
Are you on this one?
Yeah.
It's to the east of Silver Street as far as the property, and even though it's listed, the address is listed as 142R Silver Street, I don't think it has actually any frontage on Silver Street. It does front off of, like I said, Sutton Drive, at the end of Sutton Drive, and then there's another road to the north that has a cul-de-sac that also abuts the property, which, and those two roads are off of, I want to say, to be honest, I can't remember, I want to say Ledgewood, but I'm not positive.
If I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Regarding this application, I had discussed with Nick Zito of Connecticut Deep Forestry regarding the BMPs proposed, and he approved of the BMPs that were being proposed for this project. He said that, this is standard practice, and the only suggestion that he had regarding crossing the wetland itself was to put slash in the vehicle path, if that's a possibility, but that's not necessarily something that we could require or condition as part of a jurisdictional ruling necessarily, but just a request that we could possibly make of the applicant. And I just wanted to clarify, I think I know the answer, but just to clarify, will the proposed staging area also be the landing pad?
Yes, exactly. That's where all the logs are going to be brought to, where they can be loaded onto a truck. And the staging area itself, I think I mentioned in the narrative description, we're going to be using the same one we used, 20-something years ago, but we're going to be putting in an anti-tracking pad from the end of the pavement on Sutton Drive at the edge of the cul-de-sac for about, I think, approximately 50 feet or more. 100 feet, excuse me, 100 feet long going in with geotextile fabric, and then to get that mainly to stabilize the site and then make it so trucks can enter and egress and without bringing any soil out onto the road and having the neighbors complain, and then you folks would hear about it. And regarding the slash that Nick mentioned, that's pretty standard too. I mean, we could do it, but we could also just put, like I mentioned, what's called corduroy. It's just a little bit larger material. It accomplishes the same thing. Essentially, you're just trying to elevate the equipment off the actual ground, so they're not, traveling on the wetland soil itself. They're sort of elevated on the brush or the slash above it. The advantage of using the corduroy is we could actually remove it after the project is done. it's quite a bit easier, whereas the slash really gets pounded in, worked in, and eventually just breaks down. Either one's fine, but yeah, we'd be happy to do either one.
And maybe just for clarification for the commission members, I would assume that most, if not all, of the vehicles to be used for this timber harvest are going to be tracked vehicles, and tracked vehicles distribute their weight much better than those with conventional tires. So the pounds per square inch are much better distributed, and therefore they have less compaction and impact on the ground and wetland soils. And in addition to that, I believe, I should have looked it up before, but I believe it's section 4 of our regulations. Forestry, timber harvesting is considered agriculture in the state of Connecticut, and that is an exempt activity under the regulations.
Regarding the tracked vehicle, I mean, there's a good chance most of the vehicles will be tracked, but if they do use a log skidder, and not all loggers use them these days, but if they do use a log skidder, I mean, it will be a wheeled vehicle. But I'm not real concerned. I mean, the soils, if you look at the soil map I included, the soils on this site are either well drained or excessively well drained. So I think by and large, it's not going to be an issue. We did have an issue last time we did it, and you were to walk through the woods here, you'd find very little sign that there was any kind of vehicle activity throughout that property at that time, and I anticipate the same this time.
Anything else from the commission or Mr. Cole? Okay. So, yeah, it is an as of right, but they do have to submit it for review.
Right.
So, but what actions do we need to take on it if it's as of right? I don't think we need any action. You're just going to monitor it.
You would have to, in my understanding, vote that it is an as of right activity and not subject to the inland wetland regulations.
Gotcha.
And that includes the stream crossing?
Yes.
As an agricultural activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can come to my house, we can walk there.
All right, do we have a
Yeah, incidentally, I mean, when the project's going on, I don't know how familiar you folks are with timber harvesting. I mean, I know Granby happens sometime, I don't know if it happens a lot, but, I'd be happy to do a site walk out there just to demonstrate, what a typical timber harvest should look like, and then answer any questions you folks might have, and you can see the wetland crossing and all that stuff.
Thank you.
Sort of like a little field trip, I guess, for the commission.
No, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Continuing education.
I'll be calling you.
So,
So
did someone make a motion that this was an agricultural use exempt from the Inland Wetlands Act? Did I
I'll
hear
make that motion.
Vicki?
Yeah.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, looks like it passed. Thank you.
All right, thank you, folks.
We'll take you up on that site tour.
Yes.
Yeah,
All right, I'll keep you posted. I'll be in contact with Cameron as well, prior to getting started and all that stuff. And I assume you folks are just sending me some kind of paperwork to confirm what we just went over?
Yes.
Okay. All right, great. Thanks, folks. Have a great evening.
Thank you.
Good night.
All right, 5, agent report and correspondence. We have the 371 North Granby Road, 369 to 371 North Granby Road LLC permit application to modify existing approval for a 35 by 50 outdoor storage area to a 70 by 50 outdoor storage area within a regulated area. My recollection is we approved this and we're keeping it on the agenda for monitoring purposes. So what can you tell us, Cameron?
Yep, so I did go out earlier today and inspected the site and took a few photos, which I'll be passing down. The first photo is of the stone drainage swale that was put in previously by the applicant. And we can see on here, sort of just kind of informational for the commission, that there is dirt staining on the stone, which can be seen, and that's sort of indicative of how high the water gets and where the sediment is deposited. And so it's shown that the sediment is not reaching all the way to the brook, which is beneficial, so that it is working as intended. That said, it will be, continued to be monitored in case that stone needs to be cleaned and or replaced in the future. And then the other two photos show that all of the equipment is within that storage area. However, there were a few deep ruts observed beyond that in the upland review area, which I had spoken to either, I believe, an employee or a friend or somebody who was there, and they said that they were having some issues unloading some equipment, and so they're planning to grade that and seed it as soon as possible, but did not have an exact timeline for that. And other than that, they are in compliance with the 70 by 35 foot storage area.
Take it up with John. It's not our jurisdiction. Okay, any questions for Cameron about
Abby,
the
you sleeping?
ongoing monitoring of that approval? Okay, great. All right, any correspondence, reports, or communications?
The only other thing that I had on my agent report was possible forthcoming proposed new home construction for 9 Clemens Road. I met with a possible developer at 2:30 on 2/14 to discuss. And I don't believe I had discussed this during the last meeting, since it was the day of the meeting. But it's a wetland crossing that would be proposed for the driveway. It's directly, or not exactly directly, but it is adjacent to a driveway and a lot that is already in existence. It was my understanding that it was previously approved with a shared driveway, and the current owner does not now want to share that driveway. I may be remiss on the details of that, and so, if that application does come forward, that would be a question that the commission would probably like to clarify and ask. But otherwise, it's a very similar crossing to the one that was already permitted and done. So we'll see if that comes forward.
If that comes forward, can you get the prior approval so we can look at what we approved?
Yes.
Great.
Was that the one that was approved just a couple of years ago?
Yes.
Yeah, it's up off of Lost Acres.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, it is.
I remember.
Yeah, I believe that home is still under construction as of 2/14.
Anything else? Any new business? Motion to adjourn? Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Fred, all in favor? Aye. Yes, please.